I'm glad to announce that now I have two new sponsors for this podcast. This portion of the Scott Townsend Show is brought to you by Pop's Daylight Donuts. Pop's Daylight Donuts has the best donuts, sausage wraps, and pastries in Northeast Oklahoma. The staff is exceptional. They process your order fast. And if you tell them, hey, Scott Townsend said for you to give me a large spicy pig, they will give you a free large spicy sausage wrap. But you have to tell them, hey, Scott Townsend said for you to give me a large spicy pig. That's crucial. For more information on store hours, location, phone number, you name it, see the show notes below. Pop's Daylight Donuts. Go get you some. And by Castafly Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel.
Adventure. That's where it begins. We look to create and document our moments in time while embracing the majestic wonder and beauty of the great outdoors. Our quest is to explore the back roads of the Ozarks, camping, fishing, and just getting lost. Refresh your spirit and join us on our next adventure.
Paul and his crew invite you to subscribe to the Castafly Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel.
Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Dietzo Man Productions.
Hey, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for joining the Scott Townsend Show. Today I have with me a special guest, a good friend, longtime friend, just probably the nicest guy. And he's known as the nicest guy in Bartlesville. I don't know. We'll see. A good friend of mine, David Austin. David, how's it going?
Hey, doing well, Scott. Good to see you, man. It's always good to see you.
So the reason why I had you on the show, as you know, is you guys, you and some friends just got back from Alaska, a place I've never been. Of course, there's a lot of places I've never been. But after you started telling some of the stories about your trip, I thought it would be really interesting. A lot of people probably haven't been to Alaska. First question, why Alaska?
Well, I think everybody wants to vacation in Alaska in the middle of winter. And so we were just able to make that dream come true. You know, just we're one of the select few. So there was that. Now, a friend of ours, she wanted to see the Northern Lights. So she scheduled the trip and did a fantastic job of scheduling it. And anyway, she had been talking about it and said, okay, hey, well, look, I'd like to see the Northern Lights. And I guess they're best viewed in the middle of winter. And would you in summer be interested in going? And then we'll get another couple, couple other friends of ours to go as well. So it'll be six of us, we'll all go to Alaska. And Summer and I, neither of us had ever been, my wife Summer and I, neither of us had been to Alaska before. We thought, well, okay, seems kind of crazy going to Alaska in the middle of the winter, but what the heck? Let's just throw caution to the wind. We're in. So that's just kind of how it got started. And so we were there from February 9th through the 18th. And the irony is, I think we might have escaped the cold weather here and gone to a warmer climate there in Alaska. So,
I know we were giving you a hard time about going to someplace so cold, and then it wound up getting colder here than it was in Alaska.
Well, I think I told you, there was one time where I'm sitting there in Anchorage because our trip started in Fairbanks, and then we ended up in Anchorage, and that's where we ended up flying home from. But so I'm in Anchorage, and I wake up one morning and I look at the weather app, and it's 18 degrees in Anchorage. I thought, well, I wonder what it is in Bartlesville. It was 16. So 11. Pardon me, it was 11. So it was colder in Bartlesville in February than it was in Anchorage. So yeah, we obviously made the right move.
And in Houston, it was even colder, wasn't it? Or almost.
Houston was 16. So Anchorage was 18, Houston was 16, and Bartlesville was 11 in the middle of February. Yeah.
You knew what you were doing all along.
Exactly. There was a method to the madness.
So you guys left from Tulsa, and so what was the trip like? You went from Tulsa to...
Yeah, so it was... And that's the toughest thing about Alaska is probably just getting there. So we went from Tulsa to Dallas to Seattle to Fairbanks. And so when we left, I think our flight left Tulsa, I think about 12:30 p.m. And Anchorage, Alaska is 3 hours behind us. So we get into Fairbanks at 1 a.m. So, after all the layovers and the flights and all that kind of stuff. So, okay. So it's, it had been a trip of, 15 hours, whatever it was. And so we get into Fairbanks and it's negative 24 degrees. So, which is always pleasant. Everybody loves it. So I was dressed accordingly. Obviously I had t-shirts, shorts, and flip-flops. And so I was, sun visor and everything, obviously also. But no, we were both bundled up and everything, but we went outside and some friends of ours had gotten a house that we were going to stay in Fairbanks through Airbnb. So that was about maybe a 20-minute drive, 25-minute drive, whatever it was. And so we go through and we get our luggage, and they had left us the rental car that they had gotten because they had gotten 2 vehicles, and they left one of the rental cars for us. And so we just went out to the rental car area outside the main terminal there in Fairbanks to get our rental car. So the first thing we noticed was our rental car was plugged in, and it was basically just like an extension cord hanging out of the grill of the rental car plugged into a pole right there, where the car was parked.
And it wasn't diesel?
Well, no, it was just a regular car. But what they do is they plug them in to ensure that the battery doesn't get too cold.
No.
Basically, just the engine doesn't get too cold. And
right.
What they say is, and every car that you would look at there in Fairbanks had an extension cord hanging out of the grill. And, it's basically a case of if you have sustained temperatures of 15 below or colder, then you need to plug your car in. And, when we got there, it was 24 below.
Yeah.
So we go in, and that was a new one on us, but we unplugged the car and got it ready and put all the luggage in it. And now we're driving to the house. So we get to the house there in Fairbanks after a 25-minute drive. And now
what time is it now?
Now it's about 2 a.m. 2 a.m. And it's a balmy negative 24. And so it was a great first day of the trip. Obviously after 15 hours of travel or something, we weren't tired at all.
No.
We felt very happy, a lot of energy. So we get there to the house, and we're at the point to where, again, we've had this 15, 16-hour day, whatever it's been, and you're literally to the point to where, okay, the day is just about over. All I need to do is literally just walk through the door. So there was a code on the lock for the house, and so we go in, and the house had a porch, but it was a screened-in porch, so there was really no protection from the cold, none at all. So it's negative 24 on the porch, just like it is outside. So they'd given us this access code for the lock, and in theory, you just plug in the code, and then you turn the lock, and now I'm walking in the door, and my day's over. I can go to sleep in Fairbanks, let the vacation begin. Happy day.
I don't like the way you use the word "in theory."
In theory. So anyway, I put in the code. The light goes green, and I try to turn the lock. Nothing happens. It won't open. Okay, well, I do it again. The light goes green, which again, the light going green is telling me, okay, well, the code works, but the lock won't go. Okay, so we do this a few times. We think, okay, well, they're inside. In fact, I can see one of my friends. I can see his chief scarf hanging just inside the door. And it was almost like it was mocking me. You'd probably like to get in here. I'm warm. Here I am. I'm the chief scarf. I'm in this warm house. Obviously, you're not. You're a negative 24. You're in this open porch. So, okay, well, let's call them. Let's text them. There's 4 of them in the house, 2 couples. Let's call or text. So we do all of that, nothing. And so, they all had their phones shut off. It's 2 a.m. You're not exactly expecting company or
right.
Somebody called to shoot the breeze or anything like that. So, we continue messing with the lock. And at one point, I'm thinking, okay, well, because it felt like, okay, maybe there was some points to where it felt like, okay, if you just, hold your tongue just perfectly and maybe your head just sideways, just so that maybe it'll engage.
Right.
And anyway, I take off one of my gloves. And so I'm messing with it. And I can literally feel my finger freezing to the lock, to the metal on the lock. So yeah, so my finger's a little worse for wear. I think I got a little bit of frostbite. It's good now. So apparently frostbite is temporary, which is good. Anyway,
good to know.
We do exactly good to know. If you ever get frostbite, hopefully it's not going to be a lifelong affliction. We mess with it for 30 minutes, try to call, try to text, nada. So finally we thought, okay. I went back to the car, yelped the closest hotels, Northpole, Alaska. Northpole, Alaska is right outside of Fairbanks. Okay, I guess that's where we're staying. So I called them. It's 3 a.m. They were probably surprised to hear from me. Oh, okay, you want to be in Northpole, Alaska at our inn here? Okay, yeah, welcome aboard. So I called them. It was another 20, 25-minute drive to the North Pole. North Pole, Alaska, not the actual North Pole of the planet.
Right. So just between the door was the only thing standing between you and warmth and comfort.
Yeah, you would think, okay, well, if I'm flying from Tulsa to Fairbanks, okay, well, I go through everything I go through with driving to the airport and getting on the flight, and let me make sure I make my connection. And, now I'm getting my luggage once I get to Fairbanks. Now I'm driving to the house. You would think the easiest part is simply opening the lock, the door, and walking through the door. You would think that would be the easiest part of the trip. So to get tripped up on that particular portion of the trip, that was really a special treat. We really enjoyed that. There were no cuss words uttered or anything. It was just a lot of smiles, a lot of yeah. So very pleasant, not frustrating at all.
The last foot of your trip.
Exactly. Literally walking through the door. That's what we couldn't do. Yet everything else, made all 18 connections or whatever it was to get to Fairbanks. Everything else went smooth. The last part, literally just walking through the door. No, can't do that.
Couldn't do it.
Oh, that was good times.
What was probably the most memorable thing about the whole trip besides being locked out the first night?
Yeah, and obviously I'll never forget that. And I do hope my finger heals up sometime. Well, we went dog sledding, which, I think I mentioned to you, whenever we were talking first about this trip. I mean, the cool thing about Alaska was we did things that felt like, okay, well, they were very Alaska centric. Kind of like, okay, well, look, if I'm not doing this in Alaska, I'm probably not going to go dog sledding in Bartlesville or New York
right.
or LA or something like that.
Go find a bear or something.
Yeah, exactly. We saw moose. I don't see a whole lot of moose in Dewey or anything like that. And so it felt very Alaska centric. And so, yeah.
So what's the plural of moose?
I think it's just moose. Yeah, I think it's kind of like sheep. What's the plural of sheep? Isn't it just sheep?
Well, like goose.
Yeah, well, goose and geese.
Geese.
Yeah.
So moose.
Geese, would it? Wouldn't be like moose and geese. See, I don't think that's right. Maybe it is. I'll write it out and I'll see if it looks right. Two E's, I think. But yeah, no, I think it's just moose and moose. I think.
Yeah.
But,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But I digress. But yeah, so we went on the dog sled, and we did that. Like everything we were doing, a lot of it was, okay, so I'm in Alaska, so let me find the coldest point of the day in Alaska, and that's probably going to be the wee hours. And so it seems like that's when we did everything. But the dog sledding was like an 8-mile course that lasted about an hour, and it was, I think we started that at 9 at night, 10 at night, something like
9
that.
9 or 10 at night?
Yeah. So, obviously you just want to go dog sledding and then let's just hit the bars or something. But yeah, so they, you go and as far as the dog sledding place, you go and they have a yurt set up, which is just like a big tent made of, I don't know, animal hide, something like that. But it was a yurt. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in yurts and I haven't read up much on them, but we went to a yurt. And so it was cool. And it was just like a big tent or something. And so we go in the yurt and hang out, and they had some cocoa, and, they had, heating unit there. And so you hang out in the yurt, and then you go out and see the dogs that are going to be pulling your dog sled. And, they're, like it said, it was the 6 of us, 3 couples. And so.
All on one sled?
No. It's Summer and I got in the sled and they zipped us up. And then the musher was standing behind us.
Oh.
Pulling us.
Okay.
And huskies. And I guess the huskies, they weren't quite as big as what I thought they would be. I mean, it's like our dog Iggy at home, and she's 12 pounds. She probably wouldn't make for a good mush dog. But they were probably, 60 pounds or something. Not a huge dog.
Yeah.
And I think
how many dogs?
About 12 of them, I think. One of them was a recently retired, racing. All of them were racing dogs, but I think one of them was recently retired, who was pretty decorated. Because they talk about some of these dogs that have run in the Iditarod, and there's a Yukon race that's pretty prominent. Those were some of the dogs that were pulling our sled.
That's cool.
So it was about an 8-mile course, and that night it was probably 10, 15 below, so it was a little chilly. And so, we had these, we're all bundled up and everything, but I could still feel the cold, on my face and on my fingertips and on my toes. but it was still just a cool experience. And so, that was one of the experiences I'll always remember, because at this point in my life, it's not like I can rattle through and say, okay, I dog sledded that one time in Houston, and then I dog sledded, several times here in Bartlesville. And then when I was in New York, sure, I dog sledded there. Who wouldn't? So, I mean, I've dog sledded once in my life. It's in Alaska. I don't know that there's going to be a second time that I dog sled. And so
just check the box, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably an experience that I'll always remember. And then we also went to a reindeer ranch. So
reindeer ranch.
Yeah, and that again felt very Alaska centric. I think Deb set it up. Okay, we're going to a reindeer ranch. Okay, I guess that's what we're doing. We're in Alaska. We might as well go to a reindeer ranch. Obviously I've been to Northpole, Alaska, and so it kind of seems like it's in keeping with the theme. So we're doing the reindeer thing.
See, we got the North Pole checked, or the North Pole, Alaska checked off. We've got the Northern Lights.
Yeah, the Northern Lights were cool. In fact, I'll tell you about that. So the Northern Lights, that was the thing about Alaska was I went into this trip cold, man. I didn't, and I was cold obviously once I got there from the weather, but I say that I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I had done little to no research on Alaska, and so
you're just along for the ride.
I was kind of along for the ride, but it was travel to me is always educational, which is great. You learn about whatever location you're in and the people and the customs and everything else. And so in that regard, it was beautiful. And I guess it was okay that I kind of went in with not a whole lot of knowledge, because I feel like I came away with some aha moments about Alaska.
Right.
But the Northern Lights was another one to where, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And so we stay at this hotel, and they just kind of have an area where they go to observe the Northern Lights. And so they said, every fourth or fifth day, they seem to come out and kind of make a prominent appearance as far as the Northern Lights. And they said, it's especially good on a very clear night. You kind of get those in the middle of winter, the air's thinner and everything. And so you look out, and on the horizon, it's almost like watching a sunrise, except it's 11 at night. And instead of being, yellow, orange, like a sunrise, it's kind of this translucent green. And so as you're looking, it's dark, it's 10:30, 11 at night, but you can see the horizon and you can see some trees. And then behind the trees, here comes this translucent light on the horizon, again, rising almost like a sunrise, except it starts moving quickly. And after a pretty short while, the translucent lights have risen beyond the tree line, and now they're starting to make their way all the way across the sky. Eventually, they move all the way across the sky to the opposite horizon. And now you're just kind of, all above is just this just kind of the swath of translucent green light with some purple elements to it also. And it was just, again, just extremely unique, nothing I had ever experienced in my life before. And
right.
So outside they had a fire and people have their cameras, and I was taking pictures in summer, and our friends and everybody else who was out there. And the people who organized it said, okay, well, you guys were fortunate. They said, on a 10 scale, this is probably an 8, as far as what you're seeing. Is what we thought, okay, well, A, we're lucky to have even seen them, since, they said usually they only make a really good appearance every 4th or 5th night. And then B, to get an 8 on a 10 scale. Okay, well, we feel good about that.
Right. But
they also talked about the fact that the Northern Lights dance. And that was interesting to me because, you'll look up in the sky and you'll see a cloud moving, and, it's kind of languid, it's kind of, slow moving. But when you looked at these Northern Lights, it was, in some portions of them, it was almost like they were dancing. It was like looking at the street on a really hot day and seeing those heat waves that are really moving quickly back and forth. To me, it was very unique to look up in the sky and see something shaking and kind of shimmering as quickly as it was. And so that was another one that was just seemed to me to be very uniquely Alaska.
Well, thanks for regaling us with some travel stories to Alaska, Dave's travel log. All right, Dave, well, thanks a lot for your time and for regaling us with your travel log and your stories. And next time you go somewhere, you need to come back and tell us a little bit more about either riding a camel or seeing castles in Germany or
See, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
As long as I could get one of the coffee cups with the cool logo, I am in. See, bam, right there. I know I have one of those coming. And it's going to have, like I said, it will have a place of honor on the shelf there in my man cave. I can promise. So next time you're there, I'll show you where it is and everything. Yeah, it'll be very good times.
All right. Well, thanks. And if you've been listening to this and you like it, I should, go ahead, subscribe, like, share it. And if you want to watch this on YouTube, you can see the Scott Townsend Show on YouTube, the YouTube channel there. Once again, like, subscribe, share it, tell all your friends. But Dave, thanks again. Appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it, Scott. Always good to see you, my friend.
So for Dave Austin, this is Scott Townsend. Thanks for joining the Scott Townsend Show, and we'll talk to you later.
The Scott Townsend Show is a Dietzo Man production. For more episodes, visit the Scott Townsend Show YouTube channel, listen on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.